All right, our first standard is now done. We were adding, subtracting, and multiplying our polynomials. So now we're going to look at a form of division, which is factoring. We're trying to figure out what was multiplied together to equal our polynomial, so we're going to factor it into those factors. Okay, so let's just look at a basic example really fast. Let's say we look at 4x plus 16. We have 4x plus 16, and I want to know what was multiplied together to equal 4x plus 16. So what we're going to look at is the factors of each term. So if we were to look at 4x and 16, I know that they are both divisible by 4. Okay? That is our greatest common factor. Our greatest common factor is what they are both divisible by, and the biggest number that they are both divisible by. So our greatest common factor here is 4. So I am going to factor 4 out. In other words, I'm going to divide by 4. So I'm going to factor my GCF out front, which means I'm going to divide both terms by 4. 4x divided by 4 is x. 16 divided by 4 is 4. And I have now factored that binomial. Okay? As soon as this has nothing else in common, x and 4, the only thing they have in common now is they're both divisible by 1. That means I'm done. I have factored out my GCF. Okay, let's look at another example real quick. So let's say we had 8x plus 24. Again, the first thing I want to look for is my greatest common factor. So I'm going to call that my GCF. The GCF of 8x and 24 is 8. So I'm going to divide 8 off of both terms. So I'm dividing out 8. So I put that in front of the parentheses because I'm dividing it out. I'm undistributing. 8x divided by 8 is x. 24 divided by 8 is 3. Okay? Now it is fully factored. Little caution here. We might look at the 8 and 24 and say, well, those are both divisible by 4. Which is true. They are divisible by 4. So if I were to factor out a 4, 8x divided by 4 is 2x. 24 divided by 4 is 6. Okay, this is factored. It's just not fully factored, meaning we didn't factor out the GCF. Here, 2x and 6 still have 2 in common, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to factor out a 2 now. Okay, so I'm going to factor out a 2 after we already factored out a 4. 2x divided by 2 is x. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 2 times 4 is 8, and there's my x plus 3. So if we don't get the GCF right on the first attempt, we can just keep going and end up with the same result. Okay? Let's go ahead and add in variables now. So when we're factoring, we do the same idea, but with variables. So let's say we're looking at 6x cubed minus 12x squared plus 15x. So what we're going to do is we're still going to look at the coefficients and find what they have in common. What's their GCF? So 6, 12, and 15, their greatest common factor is 3. 6 is divisible by 3, 12 is divisible by 3, and 15 is divisible by 3. Now I have to look at the x's. What do they have in common? They all have 1x. 1, 2, to get to 2, you have to pass 1. X cubed, to get to 3, you have to pass 1. So they all have an x in common. So we're going to factor out 3x. 6 divided by 3 is 2. X cubed divided by x is x squared. When we divide, instead of adding the exponents, we're going to subtract. So 3 take away 1, x squared. Negative 12 divided by 3 is negative 4. X squared divided by x is x. 15 divided by 3 is 5. X divided by x is 1. So 5 times 1 is just 5. We have now factored out the GCF. Make sense? Okay. So, go through a couple problems, see how you're feeling. Email me if you've got questions.